TikTok. How many of you guys noticed I wasn't here yesterday? Did anybody notice that Bullhorn Betty wasn't present? I was so busy yesterday, I forgot to come live. And today, I was on a 4-hour live on YouTube. 4-hour live on YouTube. But it was a good live. It was a really, really good live. As a matter of fact, I left my notes where the live was being conducted. So let's just take a little stroll. We had a lot of information that was brought up in an interview by a YouTuber, and he interviewed, turn this down just a little bit, he interviewed the neighbor of Chris and Katie Proudfoot, and there was a lot of information that was had from that interview. One was about the behaviors of Katie and Chris that morning. Well, Katie that morning. Katie that morning was a little unusual. There's a couple things that I wanted to walk through with you guys here. I just did this on my YouTube, and I want you guys to understand something. We were told from Katie about Sebastian. For those that are just tuning in, this is Sebastian Rogers. He is a 15-year-old autistic boy that disappeared from inside his home. Law enforcement doesn't know how he got out of his home, and he's missing. And he's been missing since February 26, 2024 of this year. He's autistic. He's medically needy. His mother's never been without him. He's never ran away from home. He doesn't like going outside, period. We just learned from this interview, the neighbors never even saw him. From the outside, it didn't look like a child lived in this home. I had brought up how Seth, when I did an interview with him and I asked him, what is Sebastian's likes and dislikes? One of the things that he came out and said is that Sebastian loves the park. And I started thinking, and I'm like, that's really odd. Katie never talks about doing any outside activities with Sebastian. I wonder if she ever gets him out of the house for some outside activities. And according to the neighbors, he's never outside. Never outside. And usually when they do see him outside, it sounds like it's usually when Chris and Katie are arguing and Sebastian walks outside and Chris decides to treat Sebastian horribly verbally. So what did we learn from this interview? And this interview is a neighbor. Her name's Miss Bobby. She just to give you guys my overall appearance of this particular interview. I thought Bobby was truthful. It was nice hearing from a third party about that morning. We're not going off. This is a corroborated neighbor. This is somebody that was in the community. This is somebody that had 2 sons that helped in the search. She just talked about some of her experiences and what she saw and what she heard. She also explained the differences between the trash cans and stuff like that. Some of the key information, the key takeaways from this interview was there was no hit. I want you guys to understand this. There was no hit for Sebastian at their own home. None. There was not a hit until the construction site. There was a hit so much so that the dog actually jumped into the retention pond. That, when I hear it and you listen to it, it's very odd for me because it sounds like Sebastian's feet didn't touch the ground until he was at the construction site. That's why there was a search warrant for the Kentucky landfill. How it happened was, I guess, on Monday, they were focused on finding Sebastian. And of course, they had that hit over there at the construction site and the retaining pond. And I don't think they checked the dumpsters just thoroughly, from my understanding, they must have had a drone that went over and just to see if a kid was hiding in it. You know, they were looking for a runaway boy at the time. It wasn't until, I guess, after the garbage had been picked up, because the garbage over on that construction site isn't picked up until Tuesday. But those dumpsters are owned by a private company, and that private company loads those dumpsters up, and they take their waste and over to a Kentucky landfill. So that particular driver was able to go and tell law enforcement exactly what area he dumped his truck in, because it was a private business and they were privately dumping. They were paying to dump their dumpsters and the dumpster waste there from that private company. So that was very, very notable to me, that construction site was the only place that they did actually get what appeared to be a hit, even though law enforcement has denied that. And I'm going to say has denied that because this interview was very clarifying for me. It was very clarifying for me because it showed us that even law enforcement are trying to tamper down what the neighbors know. They don't really want the neighbors communicating with one another. They don't want the neighbors sharing what they've seen on the footage, the video footage. I think this is just the first of many neighbors that are going to probably be coming forward here over some time. And here's why I say that. Because as time drags on and as law enforcement blocks out the public and refuses to talk to the people very concerned about what happened, what you're going to find out is that they're getting a little rambunctious themselves because they have their own children. They want to know what happened. And over time, when they start getting blocked out, they're scared that the information they shared with law enforcement isn't being taken seriously. And when they feel that their information isn't being taken seriously and they feel like they're being ignored, they're going to start reaching out to social media to get their information out. And, in some cases where social media just has been having a communication with them. Hello, Jen, it's nice to see you. Have a communication with them. And, that's kind of where it's going to be going. So we've got this whole thing with the construction. That was one thing that we heard. Guys, this is the most breaking news of it all. So, and I've got this down for those that would like to pull this for your own. Yes, that's it, Mark. That's it. For your own, it's right around the 29-minute mark. I've got 29 minutes, 32-second mark of that interview with the neighbor on the original interview from that YouTube content creator. It starts talking about the unidentified car and the 2 flashlights. This, to me, was very critical in this particular case because this is the first time that we had somebody that saw or that has corroborated with a neighbor that saw these 2 flashlights that law enforcement's trying to make us believe is our garbage truck was actually 2 flashlights walking through toward an unidentified vehicle. This is the first time we heard there was an unidentified vehicle that those light sources had gone to. So there was a vehicle. And even that, law enforcement does not want us to have that information. This particular neighbor was speaking to law enforcement, and law enforcement tried to tell her that it was a dump truck. She said, it is absolutely not a dump truck. I saw the video. Those are lights in the grass. And she said, and they walked over to the unidentified vehicle, and he basically said, no, that was an Uber. That was an Uber. And she said, no, the Uber, hold on, I've got it in my notes. There's two different circumstances going on there. There was the flashlights moving, and the unidentified vehicle. That was on the corner of Keller and I can't remember the other road. but the unidentified vehicle was there. They tried to say it was an Uber, which was on a different road. And she said, no, it's not. It wasn't an Uber. And what Uber parks down the road from where they're picking up their people? Because we all know that Uber pulls into your driveway or out to the road in front of your house. They don't typically say, hey, meet me down the road. Oh, the silhouette. This is another thing. Holy smokes. I don't know where this is, but this is right. This is just a little bit further down from that 30-minute mark in the original interview. And this is what happened. Apparently, Katie told the neighbor who was using an Uber, is a good question. One of the neighbors had to go to the airport. So they had an Uber, and the Uber picked him up at their home. So this person knew exactly what neighbor had the Uber car. She runs the neighborhood. She runs the private neighborhood community Facebook group. This is Miss Bobby. And Miss Bobby had, all these neighbors are talking to her. They won't let us in. This is a private community. And it's a private community chat. And this was the person, this is the admin. This is the original creator of that Facebook group. And so she knows that one of her neighbors, she knows exactly which neighbor it is that called the Uber to be taken to the airport. And this Uber wasn't parked near that person's home. And according to the neighbor down the road, those light sources went to the vehicle that was sitting down there in a weird spot where it shouldn't have been. That right there, that means that there was not only weird activity on the outside of Katie and Chris's home. She indicated it was 2 flashlights. We also learned that the neighbors don't know who they are. They've been there for a year and a half. None of them really know who they are. They don't really come out of their house. They don't really do anything outside. I mean, they work on the outside, but nobody really knows them. They're not sociable. They don't have friends. Their son doesn't have friends. They're very isolating. They isolate themselves from the world. So we've got problems. We've got problems with this particular case. And we've got not only the light activity that we're being told is not light activity, but we also now have an unidentified vehicle that light activity actually went to. We have law enforcement arguing with their neighbors about what their neighbors saw. Law enforcement does not want this out. But I think the neighbors have obviously, when we start hearing this kind of stuff, like neighbors coming forward, that means that they're concerned. They're concerned something's not being done. I mean, this lady says they've done everything. They've been great. Law enforcement has been great. I think it's the unknown. Everybody just wants to know something. And this was my concern when I said that law enforcement really does need to get, a public relations. They don't have a public relations. This is horrible PR. Horrible PR to have a case this size and have no public relations. Nobody is sending out something to quell the public's angst. Nothing. And this is their own doing. And I think they're going to be creating something that they don't want to create. But I digress. Anyways, part of these videos that were turned over, one of the neighbors' cameras hit right there on the front of the house, as we all know. So this is the freaky thing about it. This is Katie's story. So Katie basically said that she was in her kitchen and it was getting, her son was in her room. She told him it was time for him to go to bed. She ends up going to the couch. Apparently she was studying for a little bit and fell asleep on the couch. She woke up at around 11:30 and heard some type of noise. And she told him to go, to go to sleep. And he said, she told him something to the effect of, or she hollered something to the effect of, "Are you okay in there?" And he said, "Yes, Mama, go to bed." And tells her to go to bed. That's what the neighbor says. But she at that time it was 11:30, and that's when they see the light go off in his room. They see somebody walking across the house, and it looks like Katie goes in her room and shuts her lights off. And then all of the sudden, in the window of the dining room, boom, there's a silhouette there. Like a freaking freaky horror movie, y'all. Like a freaking horror movie. That's when it was described. That's the way I felt. Somebody was literally turned off all the lights and started looking out the window in the dining room to see if anybody saw anything, basically. Because why else would somebody turn off all the lights and then go stand by a window? So, I don't know what happened there, but I can tell you that Katie called her husband at 9:43 at night, and there was bizarre activity at 11:30, and somebody was standing at the window in the dining room, seeing if anybody had seen anything, looking around. Because why would anybody need to be in the dining room if they're all going to bed? It was, what was described was pretty bizarre. Pretty bizarre, to say the least. So Katie got home. She said, this is where it goes, about 10-ish. So this is what was said. Katie got home. She was in the kitchen. Lights inside started turning off around 10-ish or so. You need to go to bed and then it says right here, 9:30, he was still up. He was still up, according to Katie. And according to the neighbors, that's when the light in his room finally went off. But it didn't just go off. It went off in his room. You could see apparently somebody walking across the house to the room and turned off the lights. Next thing that they know, every light in the house goes off. And there's a silhouette in the dining room window. Does that sound sus to you? Does that sound like law enforcement has nothing? When I hear all these things, and I know that law enforcement is in possession of these things, it to me is indicating that it's only a matter of time, because these things do not look very good. From somebody like me, and I have to think, if I'm like this, then law enforcement is definitely behind the scenes working on building a case, because they can't prove this boy walked out of this house. Everything that we have been told doesn't appear to hold too much water. It seems very scripted that Katie needs to be on the couch and not moving from basically 10 on. From 10 p.m. to morning time, Katie needs to be not moving in that house. She needs to either be asleep on the couch or asleep in the bed. For some reason. For some reason. That has been what needs to be like hammered into our head. She fell asleep on the couch at 10. She heard a thud at 10 for some reason. I don't know how that happened, right? Oh, and she tells her neighbor she doesn't hear the thud until 11:30. The 11:30 thud was one of the first statements she made to that neighbor. Now it's at 10. Now it's at 10. It rolled back a whole entire hour and a half. The neighbor also talked about how law enforcement is working overtime to even argue with the neighbors about what they truly saw, because the neighbors, it sounds like, are calling law enforcement to get updates on this case more than the Proudfoots are. The Proudfoots aren't calling at all, I don't think. I think they're being called. I don't think they're calling to check on the status of the case. I don't think they're being proactive or reaching out to law enforcement at all. Just like, Grandis, Hare, the grandmother of Summer Wells, when she was asked, when was the last time you spoke to law enforcement or you called law enforcement? And her answer was, the last time law enforcement called me. I don't think I've ever heard any parent of a missing child ever have to wait for law enforcement to call them. Just saying. So many times, but nothing. How many of you guys did watch that interview? It was, I don't necessarily care for the creator, and I have personal reasons for not caring for the creator. But it was a good interview, and I got a lot out of it, and it was able to corroborate a lot of my some of my opinions. My opinions and speculations. In certain respects, we've been spot on. We've been right on the money with the assessment of this case so far. There are some nuances, but so far we've been pretty good with this case. So I was actually really surprised. Like, we found out a lot. And there was a lot of stuff that, like I say, I speculate. This is the facts. This is what these facts tell me. And when she was answering some of those questions, I was like, okay, good, because that means, and those third party, those people that are unrelated to the people in the case are the most important, because they don't have a dog in the fight. They really don't have any reason to lie about what they saw. They just want to help. They just want to bring this boy home. This is not their fight. This is not their problem. They just want to help because it's their community and they feel it's their duty. And it is. I think at the end of the day, we all owe each other a duty out here in this world, that if, we're out here, we try to look out for one another, whether we know each other or not. We, even though we're strangers, we all want to make sure we all get to go where we're going, and we all get to where we're going safely. And we pray to God, if there's any kind of danger in the way, that there are good Samaritans that stick up and come up and help up, and that's all we can ask for. But I think we all owe each other a duty. And, there was something that this lady did kind of say that really rubbed me the wrong way, but I don't think she was meaning it. She seemed very nice. I hope nobody's beating this lady up. She was good. It seems like she spoke from the heart. And what I fear so much is people are being so mean to these people that are coming out and helping us about these cases, that it makes it harder and harder to get people, because who's going to want to go out here and talk to people? That's why I always give people their anonymity. I always, if I can, if that's what will get somebody off the fence to interview with me, I will pitch their voice. I will blur their face. I will make them anonymous. But you know what? That's what these people are, where we're going with all of this. If this meanness and nastiness doesn't stop, it's the responsibility of the audience and the people here to stop it. You guys have to say something when you see something. So don't let these people be nasty. This lady seemed like she was telling absolutely the truth. We're very appreciative that she came forward. But again, one of the things that did bother me was her response as to why they don't have, stuff around their house like signs and ribbons in honor of Sebastian. I thought that was an excuse. It was an excuse. And I hope that they realize that this boy is missing. It's not about them. It's about the people that are coming through that community that could put their eyes on that boy and see that boy for the first time and might have some answers. That's why we post signs in our front yard. We don't post signs when we don't want people to know that something's in our neighborhood. We don't post signs in the neighborhood. Okay, there we go. So that is one of the biggest problems that we do have. So, and just to let the person that just came over from YouTube and try to strike this live, it doesn't work like that over here, honey. So you're wasting your time. I just wanted to let you know that. They actually check for specific words that have to be used, and I don't use those, nor do I harass people. I'm having commentary, and if you don't like the First Amendment, then maybe you need to go to China. But here in America, we're allowed to talk about things. And if you don't like it or it hurts your feelings, then maybe you shouldn't be a part of true crime. So have a great day. And if I find out who you are, you'll be blocked from my channel anyways. We don't play that nonsense over here. So I don't know, what we did learn is at first we thought it was Chris because of all the marks on up and down his arm. The marks up and down his arm are very problematic. We thought that he had something to do with it because of it. And I still think he does. But I don't think it's what we think, because I truly believe Katie is the culprit here. I truly believe she was the only one alone with him, and she called her husband, and I believe her husband came and helped her. I think those marks are from wherever he put Sebastian. When I look at those marks, I look at brush and trees and something like that. So I'm looking at a heavily wooded area that he would have had no choice but to go through the brush to get to. Because any other place that would be open, I'd be taking a path of least resistance, so I wouldn't have all those scratches. So it sounds like he went into some dense foliage, in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. Many people think those are bite marks. I'm sorry, I'm just not on that. I talk about it, and I let people know that people believe that they are bite marks. And I think that there's enough people that I should say that. But I really, me personally, don't believe that those are bite marks. I believe those are scratches that he got out there in the wilderness. And that can help lead us to where he may have been, because I believe wherever he took Sebastian was a heavily wooded area. So, we have some issues here. I do believe there was a reason why he was at work at 5:15. I think he was at work at 5:15 because he didn't want to be late for work. I think that's the only reason why he was there. I think he was waiting for his shift to start. I don't know why, but he was there awfully early. And when I look back to my 20-somethings, the only time I was at work that darn early was so that somebody could make sure that I walked into the office. You know what I'm saying? They see me there. Hey, are you coming to work? So, I'm wondering if that might be the case. There's heavy equipment that's on those, even though he's a crane operator. Somebody reminded me, one of my subscribers sent me an email and reminded me there's other equipment on there. That there's other, which I already knew that there was other like trucks and stuff, because he didn't want to go to the RV at 6:30 at 5:30 in the morning. It might be plausible. It might be very plausible. I don't know. Boy, Mom, it's funny that you asked me that. You're the second person that asked me that today. And the answer is, no, I don't. As unfortunate as that answer is, I'd like my answer to be much different. But as unfortunate as it is, when I'm going out there to search for Sebastian, I'm not going out there to search for a kid that's alive. I just want to, as hard as that is, to understand, and I'm not where I'm looking is not something a child would wander into. Where I'm going is not someplace this child would go. I want to, I have hope. I'm praying to God that this child comes home and is able to be reunited with his father, and to be reunited with his father safely. That goal I want. But where I'm going to search for him, that's not what I'm looking for. And so that's why I'm angry. It's why I get frustrated. It's why I have, in some of these cases, especially the ones that I'm, neck deep in, the ones that I've learned and get to know the victims. That's why I get very, I become a mama bear in some of these cases. And, as hard as that news is, no, when I'm going out there to search, I'm not going in areas that I think I'm going to find Sebastian in a healthy condition at all. I'm looking for burial sites. I'm looking for sites of disposal. I'm not looking for him in a good condition, y'all. Terry Lynn right now is out there in the woods. She's not looking for him in a good condition. We all have hope that he's out there and he's alive and we are going to bring him home safely. But if I were to take my team to look for him in all the places he could be alive, it's taking away from my time to help find him in the logical places that he's at. So that's where I'm at. And now that I've heard that neighbor's interview, I am convinced more than ever, his mother did something to him. There's not a doubt in my mind. Chris's behavior, her behavior, what we just learned, there's not a doubt in my mind. And that really hurts me. But Katie and Chris, right now, they are in self-preservation mode. They really don't give a shit at this point. They're gonna ride this. They'll never tell us where that boy is. I truly don't believe they'll ever tell it. That woman is going to deny it until the day they can literally at this point find a video with her and Chris doing something to that boy, loading him up, taking him out, doesn't matter. And it still wouldn't. Hold on, guys, I gotta get my keys. That might be the repair guy.
Hello.
Oh, hey.
You want your yard mowed?
It's pretty much dead.
Yeah.
So, let the rain get it to grow a little bit.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
My lawn guy, he does my lawn as needed, and he's just a guy down the road. He just putzes around and whatnot, and he gets this is his extra money. And he's like, "You want the yard mowed?" I said, it looks a little dead to me. And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "I don't think it needs to be cut." It doesn't need to be cut. And he looked at me like I have two heads. It's like, what do you want me to do? Pay you $20 to cut a grass that doesn't need to be mowed? Yeah. Well, that ain't happening, babe. I'm a cheap bitch. I don't shut my door all the way. As needed is just that, as needed. But anyways, getting back to this, Katie is, she was the only one home alone with him. And we didn't want to believe it at first. But she truly was the only one home alone with him. If she was the only one home alone with him, who was the silhouette? Could Chris have been back by 11:30? But I don't see him being there. I really don't see him being there. Think about it. How is he going to be there? He would have gotten the call at 9:43. She was waiting for him to come there. She turned off all the lights. She wanted to see who paid attention, who was up, who was awake. She turned off all the lights in the house and went to that front window because that's where she knew all the cameras were. She wanted to see who was up and who saw what. And probably thankful that nobody was there. And she probably stayed there in that quiet, dark house until Chris arrived. Chris arrives. They go out the back. They go to the unidentified car. 3 to 5 minutes that car was there. 3 to 5 minutes. They took off. Now, it may not have been Chris. But this is the one thing I found out about the Bowerstocks. and the Proudfoots. They don't have friends. They have family. Their family is the Bowersox. So if they don't have friends and they only hang out with family, if anybody else was involved, it's their family. They don't have friends to call to help them with this, but they do have family. I don't think this was planned, no. Mm-mm. They did good cleanup, but I don't know. You know what? I take that back. I don't know. I don't know if this was planned or not. Because Katie never really cared for, I shouldn't say it like that. She never cared for Sebastian. But she never was the nurturing mother type for Sebastian. When she had her son and found out he was medically needy, she basically went off to the Navy and left her son with Seth to raise. It sounded like they had a very contentious marriage. It sounded like, according to Seth, now this is his side. We can't say that his side is more relevant than her side. We don't, this is a situation where he has his truth, she has her truth, and somewhere in the middle is the real truth, in my opinion. So I'm not 100% with Seth. I'm not 100, because that's just how it goes, because everybody has their own viewpoint. She may be absolutely 100% and absolutely believe her viewpoint. He may be 100% and believe his viewpoint. But just because they believe that was their viewpoint wasn't the reality of the situation. We all know that. Hindsight's 20/20. So I'm going to apply that logic to this. And so I believe that, but I do believe, there's enough information that she went off to the Navy. What those reasons were for her to go off to the Navy, I have no idea. But that was the decision of the family, that she went off to the Navy. So she didn't actually take care of this child. He describes her sleeping so hard that when the child cried and he needed to get some sleep, she wouldn't even wake up to go care for Sebastian. He was the primary caregiver. I just learned recently through an interview he gave, I believe, on another YouTube creator's channel, that one of the reasons why he didn't get full and sole custody of his son is because the divorce basically had him homeless. And so he was lucky to get joint custody. So I just want to put this out there for everybody that's following this case, that has an opinion of Seth based upon some court records. Many of us have gone through a divorce, and many of us know that it is an ugly process, and there is a lot of mudslinging, especially if there's children or property involved, okay, or money. It gets really bad if all three are involved, okay? It is not a beautiful process. It is disgusting. The things that are put in these court pleadings are atrocious. But there are also a lot of unfounded allegations in an effort to, acquire something, or protect something. It's not that it's true. And so the court does what they have, like court orders and court findings and things of that nature, which we've never received, not one iota. But I would like to just put this out there for you guys to gnaw on for a little bit, because it's a little tidbit of common sense and problem solving. So Seth Rogers is proclaimed to have done all of these horrible things. He's he blows up, he blew a gasket, right? Horrible. Even through all this court proceedings of him being just smeared across the stuff with all these court proceedings that were part of their divorce. Well, if the courts would have found those allegations to be true, they would have given Katie primary custody of Sebastian, not joint custody, and especially not joint custody when he was homeless. Do you understand that? The court's ruling, while they didn't say we didn't find in favor of the woman and found this guy to be violent, their order actually spoke volumes, because this man is homeless. He obviously, if he was that violent and homeless, joint custody wouldn't have been an option. It would have been sole custody to Katie. Sole custody. But that's not what the court's finding were. Even after all that mudslinging in those court records, they still gave him joint custody while he was homeless. That should show how the court felt about him as a father. They obviously thought he was a good father, or they would never have done such an order. I will promise you that. They would have never done such an order. So I just wanted to throw that out there to all of you guys, because, you know, I know when we don't know people, you know, it's hard, because anybody can be anything and anybody can lie to us. And of course, us being in this, we absolutely are very, very skeptical of people, you know, and it's hard not to, because us as humans don't want to engage in people that could have hurt or harmed a child. We want no part of it. So we want them to be like literally, you know, exonerated quadruple millions time over before we're going to look. But I would never consider working with I shouldn't say that. I would consider working with a horrible parent if they just want to find their children, because, you know, you got to look at Harmony Montgomery. Her mother was a terrible mom to her. But if it wasn't for her mom's perseverance, nobody would have known that that girl was missing, let alone gone, let alone the atrocity that poor baby went to at the hands of her father. So we have to remember that. Would I have worked with Crystal? If she called me or her friend reached out to me and said, this mother she's not getting any help, she needs help, would I have helped her? Yeah, I would have. Even despite her using drugs in front of her daughter and doing all those horrible things, I would have still helped her. I sure would have. I think it's important to help all those. If she had something to do with it, no, I would never help her. But her problems, the things she did, didn't have anything to do with why her daughter was missing then, why she couldn't find her daughter then. So, yeah, poor Faith is in there now. Well, I don't know about that, because everybody said that, I don't know. I've been hearing that Faith is with her father. It's a little scary for me. I can't imagine what Nina, how freaked out Nina must be with all this. I'm sure she's ultra concerned about the safety and welfare of her daughter around these people. I would be ultra concerned about the safety and welfare of my child around these people. On the outside looking in, it looks normal, but one thing that we did learn from this interview as well is that CPS was at these people's house a heck of a lot more than we ever knew, and definitely a lot more than Chris tried to imply. And CPS, out of all those times, never reached out to Seth. Why the teachers at the school didn't reach out to Seth, I really don't know. But that failure to reach out to Seth, in all reality, in my opinion, was the difference between this child being missing and this child never even being breathed out of our mouths. The teachers, at minimum, should have called the father. At minimum. CPS, without a doubt. When you got CPS involved, if the parents even have any type of custody, they should be well apprised of what's going on inside that home. I guarantee had Seth known, had Seth known what truly was going on and transpiring in that house. I mean, look at how he acts when the doctors want to give his son pharmaceuticals. Look how he acts when he needs the teachers to understand his son's not stupid. He doesn't need just to learn the letter S. He knows the alphabet. Why are you spending a half a year teaching? You see a Papa Bear wanting the absolute best for his son in every aspect. What makes you think that Papa Bear wouldn't have come out had he known his son was being treated poorly by his mother and his stepfather? I absolutely 100% believe Seth would have never had any part of that. because society may not agree that you're a good parent doesn't mean that you're not a good parent. I have never, you know what, I was just on there on my my YouTube, you know, kind of mocking a little bit because I'm like, man, what a piece of shit father this guy is. God, I wish we had more pieces of shit like this for parents around here. You know? I mean, some of my own audience, you know, they have like legit deadbeat fathers that don't even give a crap whether their kid lives or dies. And this man has just been fighting, and an uphill battle at that. He's like a freaking salmon. I feel so bad for him. It's like, you know, one step forward, 18 steps back. It's like he's just pushing against the current the entire time. And it should not be like that for a parent that had nothing to do with their disappearance of their child. Like, he had nothing to do with it. And he shouldn't have to. He should be getting all the love and support and everything that we have to offer in his time of need. And I'm just still dumbfounded. We're not there yet with him. And it's sad. Because this man sounds like he really gives a shit about his kid. I mean, I've been duped before. I have to be honest with you. I've been duped before. I don't like being duped. You know, I have been a sucker in the past. You know? I don't know. Maybe I am a sucker. I might just be a sucker. Maybe he's this closet horrible guy that just seems to always be there rooting from the sidelines for his son. Seems to be the only one that really gives a crap about his son. I mean, I could have this all wrong. You know, my analysis, even though I have a great batting average, I just might be wrong, right? Maybe Bullhorn Betty's a little rusty. Maybe I got cabin fever from being home too much. Maybe that's it. Maybe I got cabin fever from being home too much. But I don't know about you, but I can tell you there's about 15 women that I know that has beautiful children that would love to have a piece of shit father in their kid's life like Seth. Just saying. Just saying. So, you know, I don't know. I'm hoping, Charlie. I think I got it. You know, I've really sat, not only that, but even at the beginning, I have a great team. I got beautiful mods that have been, most of them have what is it? They're insomniacs, right? So I have to be honest with you. Insomnia, I usually don't joke about until I need to utilize it for my benefit. And having my entire team up from, you know, 5 o'clock in the morning until 2 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning, they get maybe 2 hours of sleep and up at it again. You know, I'm sorry. You know, that's when I realized insomnia actually... But we were up for days. We were up late in the nights, poring over information, poring over maps. And I think that's what's helping us back here. You know, now that we are starting to get some information, having all of that specific knowledge and factual knowledge, because I really kept a tight timeline and focus for this channel. I kept it right with 9 p.m. on February 25th. I mean, we looked some of the, you know, the day stuff as we first started this case. We looked obviously for, you know, in their Sunday activities, you know, but our core case, our core focus for all of our time wasn't on all these frivolous things. It was from 9 p.m. on February 25th to 7 a.m. on February 26th. That's where our channel kept the focus, because I identified that is the entire case. It's that. That's our entire window. If we can fix everything in that window, we're going to have a good understanding of what transpired. So I've been dedicated to that window and that window alone. That's why I get frustrated when people start bringing in all of these other things that mean nothing. That is our entire case is right there, and that's where we need to stay. And so I'm constantly looking at anything and everything that can answer any questions between that timeline, and why I think it's so important to go back to these interviews and keep listening to them. There are interviews that I have listened to literally 4 times, and I go back to them and I'm still pulling stuff out of those interviews. It is amazing Because what happens is as these cases progress, we get more and more information. And the information, like in the interviews, the reason why we learn so much more is because now we have a tidbit more of information. So now something in that interview is now calling us because we didn't have this information. So that was irrelevant before. But now that we have this information, when we're listening to this interview again, it's like ding, 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 right? That's why it was so easy to digest that Dutch's 3-3 interview, because we're looking at the case today and we could hear the major differences in the case in Dutch's. But here's the kicker. On February 26th, we got people on the ground that were there with Katie and got to hear her statement that day. And so I suggest that you guys go over and get that neighbor's statement. If you would like to see my commentary on it, which is obviously not an hour and a half, it's a 4-hour live. You can always go to Bullhorn Betty's channel. If you just need to know which channel gave it, you can go over to Bullhorn Betty's channel, watch about 5 minutes of my video. You will get exactly what creator created that interview, and you can go over there and watch the entire interview off that person's channel and avoid my lengthy commentary. But we stop a lot and we talk about it because there was a lot of information that was found. And I got to tell you, there were that car. We now have a car. We were trying to find out where a vehicle was. We knew that a vehicle had to be in the area, and she just gave us our vehicle. She just gave us our vehicle last night. We have a suspicious vehicle in the area that those two light sources went to. Don't know what color it is. I know we are looking for a green vehicle. It was a pickup truck, but hey, you know, I understand visions are just that, visions. Sometimes they can be wrong, sometimes they can be right. Don't know. It was a very interesting interview. Yes, Broken Halo. I like your name, by the way. Do you think charges will ever... Yes, I do. Linda, absolutely do. After I heard that neighbor's interview and now have a little insight on what law enforcement has in their possession, custody, and control. Yeah. Yeah, I think they're a lot further than they want to let us know. I think there's no way they're not onto something. They have, this is the problem. I can come here and say, we know this, we know that, right? Which we do. And law enforcement does too. But knowing something and proving something are two totally different things. So we know it's true. Now we got to prove it. And that's what law enforcement is doing, right? They're investigating it. They're going to make sure that the holes that that Chris and Katie have put in their story that they can drive a Mack truck through. Law enforcement needs to build that case and needs to show all of their inconsistencies. And I think that's what they're doing. A lot of people think that they should have already had this done by now. This is the problem. Everybody thinks because, law enforcement and judges have, can order and provide subpoenas and stuff like that, right? We all know that to be true. But it doesn't mean that these social media companies get to them immediately. Some of them will actually fight the subpoena, causing them to get a court order. There is a process that goes into, it's not just picking up the phone, calling GM, giving them the VIN number, and them sending you the report. It doesn't work like that. You have to go through a process. Some of these processes could take several months to get through before they ever even get what they're requesting. And then after they get what they're requesting, it usually has to go to a specialist, okay? The specialist is not sitting in an office waiting for this particular case to wind up on its desk. There are literally hundreds of cases going on that this particular agent or specialist is working on. So it gets a number. Unless it is a priority or put on a priority list, it goes in an order. So their analysis could take several additional weeks over and above once they receive it. So people think that this stuff just comes back lickety-split. And in many cases, when it's a priority, it does. For example, if this stuff was requested on second notice and you got the alphabet soups involved, you probably have a high probability of getting this stuff back almost immediately because of the pressure and because it's an active and ongoing case and they're trying to find a boy that is, healthy. As this case goes on, the priority, the urgency subsides. The urgency subsides. They slow down the case. They start going back over it. They start crossing their I's and dotting their T's. I said in the earlier live today that, people were like, I don't know why the state troopers were here. Why were they involved in this case? And I don't know their specificity as why they were there. Did they provide a couple canines? Was it from, was it for, license plate support? I don't know why they were there. But one thing I know that state troopers are amazing at and have such a great skill set for is reconstruction of crime scenes or accident scenes, I should say. They have a great knack for reconstruction. They have some of the best in the state trooper organization that has some of the best type of accolades when it comes to reconstructing of accident scenes. And those can be applied to just about anything. Now, I don't know if that was the case. I may be totally off base when it comes to that. But I do believe that was pretty interesting considering that this interviewee happened to say that they reenacted that evening at 10 p.m. They wanted to know what was happening at that house at 10 p.m. Guys, this is what makes me think and know that they are on the right track. Because if they're reconstructing the scene at 10 p.m., then they believe that that's when this boy... Now, do you see why the professionals are starting to hint about that 10 p.m. mark as to when they think everything kind of happened? We hear that over and over again on all of our expert channels on YouTube, that they believe something happened. All of our experts are kind of hinting around that they believe whatever happened around 10 p.m. And I want to be more specific to that. I think it happened right before 9:43 when she called her husband. Literally seconds before she called her husband. That would be my time. So that's where we're at. We got a lot out. I would recommend you guys seeing that interview. But if you guys do have the palate or the time, I'd recommend you guys going to my channel and watching my commentary. It's just very long, but it's good. And I enjoyed it. And we kept we had over 800 people in the chat the entire time. So obviously it was interesting enough to keep that many people in the chat for that long. So I think it was a good live. I think it was a really good live. And the live last night that I did at 8 on that channel, I hope you guys watched that. It was really thorough. We went through Christopher's alibi. We went through a lot of stuff, but it really was driving the bus to Chris's alibi and whether or not Chris actually was being forthcoming with the stuff. So, I've done a lot of work on this case. I believe that these two people right here, Chris and Katie Proudfoot, will have the most answers. I started out in this case believing that Christopher Proudfoot was responsible for what happened. But after learning a lot, after learning about who Chris is, learning about who his wife is, Katie, learning about Sebastian and all of his disabilities and who he was as a person, it's been a little journey to where we are. But no, I no longer believe that Chris is responsible for this in any way. My personal opinion is I know a lot of people believe this was premeditated. I don't believe that either. I know people believe that he never made it to the house. I don't believe that either. My belief that as it's working now, it's still a rolling belief. We don't have all the information, and as more details come out, it might change my position because remember, I started out with Chris And as more and more information came out, my position has changed. But we're here 3 months later, and this, with everything that I found out, this is kind of what I believe happened. I believe that Sebastian had an overstimulated day the night before. I did not realize, because I'm learning about autism, that it had this energizing effect, if you will, of a person with autism, making it very difficult for a child to go to bed or sleep, or, you know, get comfortable or still. You know, it just does something to them. It gets them anxious. And so I believe that he really did, because from every parent that I talked to, and even Seth himself, just seemed like that day that he was out, you know, going to BJ's, being around family and friends, and going to gaming and out to eat and everything. It seemed like it was overstimulating to a lot of my parents in my chat. And I had an opportunity to ask his own father, and his own father kind of believes that he was overstimulated. So I do believe when he got home, his mother made him take out the garbage. Now, some people believe that he had to pack up everything in his room because he failed to clean his room, and that may have been what got him into the fight to begin with. I'm not sure. It seemed like Chris was the pusher of that, not Katie. It seems like, according to statements I've read and testimony I've heard from Chris himself, he stated that he's done it twice, and one of the times Katie talked him out of it. So it doesn't sound like it was Katie pushing that. So I really don't think that holds a lot of weight, but it could. You know, again, we don't have all the information. Just for what I'm looking at right now, it's not in my analysis at all. I believe that whatever happened, you know, he did take his garbage out. I believe that there may have been some type of disagreement, or maybe total meltdown from Sebastian, because he was overstimulated and he was having a hard time settling down, and they could have had an altercation between the two of them. Whatever happened between the two of them, I don't think he was over-medicated intentionally. I think it was just simple. I think mom lost her shit and either pushed him, hurt him, you know, it just lost her stuff and just got so angry that whatever happened. And when she came to realization of what happened, I truly believe that is when she called Chris, which was right at 9:43. Hi. I'm doing well. Let me give you my keys. Yes, ma'am. My car is a little bit of a mess, but it's because it's been in the shop for literally 3 months after I came back from Tennessee.
I'll charge you for it later.
Perfect. Love it. Uh-huh. Well, the safe light guy is kind of cute. I think that was a little unprofessional, but sorry, I've been locked up in a house for 3 months. Should we go out and look? Well. Okay, back to business. I'm just saying, okay? I admit I might have cabin fever after 3 months, okay? I'm sorry, you know? Meow. Hey, I didn't act on it. I didn't say anything to him. He heard me. I was very professional, I thought. I'm just having to say. Hey. All right. So where were we before I was distracted? So, you know, I really did think Katie was, or Chris was responsible. And then, of course, it came to light that Chris was seen at his house, or his, you know, mobile home, our camper. I thought it was 9, but I heard from this lady or somebody 8. Maybe he was last seen there at 8. I don't know, 8 or 9 o'clock. I can't remember where I heard that, but one of the two. So after that, from that time to 5:15 in the morning when he was seen on his job, where was he? What did he do? Quite frankly, he's got no freaking alibi. Y'all. Chris Proudfoot has no stinking alibi. Katie Proudfoot has no stinking alibi. The only person that has provided an alibi is Seth. But he was on freaking camera. He was on freaking camera. He was on camera. He clocked into his underneath, whatever. He's good. But Katie, her alibi is I was sleeping and I was sleeping alone. Chris's alibi is I was sleeping alone. Well, it's interesting. For all these people sleeping alone, we have 2 flashlights out of back and a child missing. And this is a house of 3, and they don't have any friends and barely see family. So now we got 3 people. One of them's missing, and there's 2 flashlights going out the back of their house to a car. Okay, call me stupid. I don't know what that means. Can we physically see it's Katie and Chris? No. But they don't have friends. They barely hang out with their family. What other 2 people would be coming out of the backside of their house with flashlights? He says nobody has their code to get in. There was no abduction. There was no intruder. So who was going out the back of their house? Who was going out the back of their house with flashlights to a car that was sitting on Keller? Just curious. And for me, not to have a hit on the back of their house, but to have a hit at the construction site makes me feel this boy's feet didn't hit the ground until he got to the construction site. Was it so that he was laid down until he was loaded up? They had to set him down in order to get him in? Sorry. I have a problem. Everybody says these people do nothing. They barely are outside. Nobody ever sees them. When they do see them, it's like hi and bye. They're not sociable. They stay to themselves. And the boy doesn't like coming out of the house. So who in the world in their right mind would actually think this boy walked out of the house when he doesn't? The neighbors don't even see him outside. The neighbors don't even see this kid outside. They didn't even, half the neighbors, they know a boy lives there. They know a medically needy boy lives there, but they never see him. There are literally no signs that a kid lives at that house. So if he never left, what would inspire these parents to think that in the middle of the night, he just all of a sudden gets up and walks out of the house? Out of all the fights they had, he didn't do it any other time. Why this day after he had such an amazing day? It doesn't make sense. This kid is not a runner. His father is comfortable with him at the house. Why? Because he doesn't do anything. He plays on his games and stays to himself. Yeah, they have a garage. They have a 3-car garage. But it doesn't matter. Why would they take him to a garage when all this activity is in the backside of their house leading to another car? People that have an analysis that he was loaded up in a car and waited there, that wouldn't be the analysis I have based upon the information we're hearing. Because if they were just going to load him up in the car and wait until the next morning, why so much activity that night? They would have gotten him out of that house that night. We have 2 flashlights going out the back door, and there's a car down the road, an unidentified vehicle down the road that these 2 light sources get to. So I do not believe that he was in that house. I believe he was removed from that house that night. So I don't know. Where he went from there, I don't know. But I'm interested, you know what I'm interested in? I'm certain that, at least I hope, and somebody reach out to me if it happens, but I'm pretty sure Seth or Tony might be addressing this sometime tonight, because this is obviously a huge interview, right? And quite frankly, I know I'm being a little rough on the creator because of personal hurt feelings. I hope this is a turn for this creator where he's actually going to get focused on the real case at hand. It sounds like for the first time we finally got some real good, a real good live from this particular creator that was truly good. And it's been a while since I've seen this level come out from this creator on this case. And I hope this is the change for the right. I hope that this creator is really going to start analyzing this case properly instead of through a hurt feelings lens, because we could use this creator's help. Creators that do good research and stuff like that, we can always use their help. And when they're using their craft for bad, I will, nope, sorry, Charlie. So that's kind of where we are. But I think it was a great interview. It really did provide some insight that we really did need. And I think it really does kind of give us the weight we needed to keep us moving in the right direction. I think we're on the right beat, guys. We're definitely on the right beat with this case. We're not off. We're not off at all. There's no way we're off on this. We've got it. We've got it. Now we need the details. And once we get the details, those, because if we get the details, that means law enforcement has them. And when law enforcement has the details, I feel something good is coming. I really do. I feel like all they need right now is a license plate reader. This is all digital. Like, I just feel like they're so close to having what they need. But it's going to be linking. For example, what do I mean by that? What if Chris did leave the campground? What if he went back to Memphis and borrowed a truck from his job, or borrowed a friend's vehicle? All those vehicles that have passed, they have to track. They have to track those and find out, is this Chris, is this not Chris? Where did this car go? Right? If you have 1,000 cars on the road, they have to do that for 1,000 cars. They got to look at all 1,000 cars to find out if any of these people could potentially be associated with either of these people. If they don't have his truck on the roads or on a reader, he used somebody else's. I don't see her calling anybody else, because let's face it, who did she call first thing in the morning for help, even though she knew this person couldn't help? Her husband. So we kind of have an idea of who she would have called when shit hit the fan. And guess what? We just so happened to have a call at 9:43 at night that lasted 3 hours. That sounds like something about something hitting the fan. I don't know. I keep trying to figure out when the last time I had a 3-hour conversation. I can't remember the last time the crap hit the fan that much. I don't think I've ever had an experience like that before. So I don't know. CP said to Seth, where my parents were Sunday night. Where my parents were Sunday night. Where was his parents Sunday night? I wonder where they were. It says a lot that says Seth wasn't the first call. Good point, Ashley. Have you seen Sebastian? Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's bread. I don't do carbs, but I went to this place called Detweiler's. Oh, my God. I got I can't even speak. Asiago bread. Holy smokes. I didn't put butter on it. I didn't warm it up. I ate a whole damn loaf, a whole loaf of Asiago bread, a whole freaking loaf in bed. I am not lying. I could not stop eating it. I don't eat bread, but they did have a fresh, they did have fresh white bread too. And you know what? The reason why I got this is because this is fresh and it's sliced. But when you get fresh bread from a real deli and it's sliced, it doesn't have all the preservatives that your Wonder Bread has in it. And so it's a little bit healthier for you. But I'm a little slower on the white bread. I like the white bread, but I don't eat it. I don't eat a whole loaf of white bread in a day. Like, this will last me a week. That Asiago bread, I didn't know it was going to do that to me. But once you started eating it, you couldn't stop. And it didn't need any butter. It didn't need a darn thing. All it needed to do was be eaten. That's all it said. It said, eat me, eat me. And I said, okay, get in my belly. And it did. I always wondered why CP didn't ask, because they knew that Seth didn't have that boy. And they couldn't ask him that because listen guys, I keep forgetting I never talked to you guys about this. I finally figured out why they're so adamant that Sebastian walked out of the house. For whatever reason, I believe Christopher knows the protocols. Christopher and Katie know the protocols of law enforcement. And I truly believe that if they had said that their child was abducted, they knew that would bring in every available resource. They did not want that intense investigation. They did not want the forensics inside their home. That is why they're absolutely adamant that he walked out the door. They need him walking out the door. Because if they don't have him walking out the door, then Katie is primo in this investigation. They need this boy walking out the door, even though they know it doesn't make sense. Their fatal flaw. They forgot to put his shoes on. That was their fatal flaw. Everything else they did perfectly. But they forgot the shoes, which leads me to believe something happened in the living room or in his bedroom, because his shoes were near the garage. So that's all I've got. That's how I'm piecing this together. The more information we get, the more it looks damaging for Chris and Katie. They did this to themselves because they were adamant that this boy was not abducted. They can't have this boy abducted. But now that you look at everything, if they would have said that this boy was abducted, they would be in a lot better situation, because in all reality, 2 flashlights outside of their home, a car down the road, they would have probably found those people pretty quickly had they thought it was an abduction. Just saying. Don't know. Guess we'll never find out, because Katie and Chris believe their autistic son that doesn't run away, always wears shoes, and always has his game with him, would somehow magically wake up one day in the middle of the night, decide to leave, but leave without anything. No shoes, no game, no snacks, no water, no cell phone, literally nothing. Oh, by the way, he doesn't like being dirty, and he is allergic to grass. But that's not the most phenomenal thing about it. The best part about it is this boy walked out of his house and didn't even leave one single piece of microscopic scent anywhere when he ran out the door. I mean, the luck of a kid trying to run away from home and not be found. Like, it's this kid. Wow. Wow. What a smart kid, what a Houdini, what a very illogical, spontaneous, I think is the best word to use. What a spontaneous, this is the most spontaneous autistic boy I think I've ever met. And I know Jennifer Coffin-Daffer always refers back to the boy that did walk out of his home and was found the outlier. This is one boy that's autistic that walked out of his home, and a year or 2 years later he was found, and he looked healthy. It looked like he had been taking care of himself. But he was healthy and he was alive, and he had grown a little bit, and he had different clothes, different shoes, so he was obviously taking care of himself. There was obvious signs that that child walked out of his home and truly walked out of his home. That's the difference between that case and this case, is this child didn't walk out of his home. There's no evidence that this child walked out of his home, unlike the other child that did walk out of his home. They knew that child walked out of his home. They just could not find him. Big difference. No evidence here. None. They're liars, in my opinion. So that's all I have, guys. Rock it out with your coffee beans out. I wanted to thank you guys for all being here with me. I go all over the country. I've been kind of jammed up at home. My car's finally fixed, so I can't wait to get out there. I'm already working with Chronicles of Olivia to schedule a great tour. We're going to be in Tennessee. We're going to be covering I'm going to be covering 3 cases in Tennessee. It's going to be Sebastian Rogers, Summer Wells, and Layla Santinello. And so that is going to be our driving force. On June 27th, Layla Santinello will be coming up to that awful 1-year milestone of her being missing. It's going to be a very heartfelt day. It's going to be a hard day for her mother. Her mother's preparing a vigil. I'd like anybody that's out there in the Tennessee area that would like to show support for me, like to show support for our family that we take under our wings. This is just another one of those families. We would like you guys, if you can, to attend. I will get that information out to you once I know where the vigil is. But for those that can't be there, I promise you I'll have this set up so we can watch it live, so you guys won't miss anything. So I hope you guys are there or support online. We're just trying to bring awareness to all of our beautiful kids in Tennessee that are missing right now that we've been covering. And the cases that we've been covering is Layla Santinello, Summer Wells, and of course, Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers. All right, guys, take care.